Welcome back to the LCS waiting room ahead of our first lower bracket best of series. Dash is at a wedding, so we got the 4 analyst desk once again.
There it is.
Today. Dash will
Nice.
be back tomorrow, as far as I know. Teams arrived today: Golden Guardians and Cloud9. It's going to be a very interesting series. How you guys feeling?
I like this now. I'm feeling a little better because just the whole storyline about both these teams coming into today's games. Also, last split, if I remember, in the losers bracket when Perks was still on Cloud9, this was the same matchup going up against Golden Guardians. So it's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, this is a weird one. I'm sure we'll get into all the reasons why, but this has been a strange week to try and determine who's going to win, I think, for analysts and stuff, because you have your expectations and you have everything else that's brewing, and they don't seem to align right now.
Yeah, the difference of the way we looked at Cloud9 2 weeks ago to where maybe we're looking at Cloud9 now is super interesting. We're going to get into all that during Waiting Room. First up, though, we want to talk about the FTX Most Improved Award. So this award will be awarded at the end of the year, but since it is new to the LCS, we did want to spend a small amount of time talking about it.
This was a really cool one. I think there were a lot of good candidates, but the winner ended up being Danny, I believe? Or
Well,
the
There's no winner. It's
There's no winner yet.
There's no winner mark.
yet, but we did have to vote on this, did we not?
No.
Did I not vote on this?
Oh my god. Anyway, tracking Danny through his sophomore season. This is something I actually did want to do because we kind of lose track of players after they're rookies sometimes, or we're just like, is that player still good? Or we'll move on to the next rookie who is also on Danny's team. I think his laning in particular has improved a lot since last year. So yeah, I mean, his team fighting was always insane and continues to be insane.
Yeah, and it's just generally fun tracking players who are consistently progressing towards that award, that MVP, those kind of conversations. It's nice to be able to track. So for me, it's hilariously enough Pridestalker because as a player, because even though he came into the LCS this year and had no prior history, the last time we saw him on a major stage in the LEC, he wasn't doing too well. People will always look back on the Kane game and hear about, well, he's performing well in scrims and solo queue, but you know, when he comes on stage, and it was so long ago, it wasn't happening. And so, of course, he went through ERL leagues. He's here now, and he has just been a standout player, not just for Golden Guardians, but of the really competitive pool of junglers in this league.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah.
FTX Most Improved is an end-of-year award, much like Rookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just talking about like what.
I swear to God, I voted for Biofrost on something, and then you and I talked about how like the spirit of the award versus.
Yes, this was when we talked about FTX Most Improved last time.
Yeah, on Waiting Room.
And then I probably voted on it on the ballot, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you
guess
didn't
I'm just
because it wasn't on the ballot. Speaking of what was on the ballot, though, TL1 coaching staff of the split.
Boom.
Boom.
Yo.
This one was on the ballot?
Yeah, this one was on the ballot.
Okay, just double check.
Some people do decline to vote for this award. I know Emily does as well. I like giving coaching staffs personally recognition because it's something that is so thankless in many situations. And I think the thing we can talk about with TL specifically is just the hurdles that they had to go through in the spring. Because you see the superstar roster that is now in the winners bracket finals, but the road there was a little turbulent.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about all of, nearly losing Core JJ, which Dodo came out and talked about, how no one even wanted to take that case. All of the swaps they had to do in the beginning of the season when they were dealing with other restrictions and having to go through that. I remember when we had Spawn on and I asked him, oh, how's your academy roster doing? And he was like, what roster? Like, I don't even know. We're just swapping players all around. So it's credit to them that they were able to stay so stable even with all that.
Yeah, I think for me, we've already seen, I know it's both Cold and Gyotto, and actually Hack's Defender as well, the assistant coach who's been in the organization for quite some time, you know him.
Yep.
But yeah, Gyotto, when he was on, Immortals, had a huge impact on that team. And so like coming over to Team Liquid and then being able to win that award, I mean, that's just something that I feel is great for him to look back on. Still got to be able to take wins in playoffs. So great that he was able to get it during the regular season, but now here comes the payoff.
Yeah, all these also regular season awards. So if a couple weeks from now you hear who the MVP is, it's not about what happened in the playoffs, but I got to read this tweet here from Trevor Quickshot Henry.
Trevor.
It's so great to hear fans back in the LCS studio, and what a series they are treated to. That was on April 3rd, so that was definitely from last weekend. But this is just kind of where we were talking about our favorite fan moments, right?
Yes.
Because it had been so long, so long since we'd been able to hear especially NA fans cheering over an NA game. So what were some of the highlights for you, Rez?
For me, oh my God. Hilariously enough, yep, bring it out. It's the fact that a fan had 2 of these.
They printed them out.
Yeah,
Were they different or were they the same?
The exact same. Because he was thoughtful. He was like, hey, 1 for the show and 1 for you. And so that was literally it. The man, he's incredible.
Is this live or is this last week? Oh, there's the second one.
This was last week.
Okay.
And so I remember making this face. I think I made this face and tweeted out in response to one of your tweets where you like had the
we
triple
always do
chin.
chins.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so he just randomly tweeted it at me. I was like, frame it. And he's like, you know what? I will. Brought it over here. And so like that one was really funny to me. And so it's just great having those moments. And I know, we got to see the tweet from Trevor. Now they're having fans back in their studio as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just seeing that is great.
You should hand that to a fan here today. Figure out who gives you of a fans here, who gives you like the best response to something on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Then give it
How
out.
heavy is that? It's probably,
It is really
it's probably
light,
dangerous to
actually.
throw into the stands.
It's pretty, it is dangerous.
Oh, you did it, and you just
Yeah,
tossed
you
it
can
in.
still,
'Cause we'll
beat
get on
someone
stage
the
for like
head.
the final 8 minutes of the show before we go on. Mark, what was your favorite moment?
This was one that is like off camera, but it was when we were casting. There's this crazy First Blood that happened in Game 1 because it was the 100 Thieves C9 series that invade from Game 1. I was popping off really hard about it just because like the fans were going crazy. It was level 1, and like Kobe had to look at me and be like, "Calm down, dude." And there were a couple times over the course of that series where like the crowd's energy was so infectious that like it just brings you to the next
Just
level.
amp
So like
everything.
Kobe and I multiple times would like look at each other and be like, "You're going too fast for a level 1 First Blood in the first game of a 5-game series. So just take it down a notch." Like you're right.
Emily?
There was when I walked out and I'm like, tired, look like poop. A bunch of people came up to me and they were like really chill. And so this is my first year on the AD actually having fans.
Right.
And that's really not happened to me before. It doesn't really happen to you as a
Celebrity.
journalist. So
Yeah. Esports celebrity.
That was, please no.
Esports superstar Emily Rand.
No,
Yeah.
stop. That was just really cool. It was awesome. And shout out to those people who I showed my draft notebook and all the weird drawings I have in it.
Nice. For me, it was actually when we were standing on stage, not standing on stage itself, but weirdly, when I saw the shot of us standing on stage with the fans in the big screen, I'm like, this is something that just hasn't been possible to do logistically
For years,
the past
yeah.
2 years, and it just I don't know, it made me really nostalgic, and it was a fun experience.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Fans are also still here, which is great.
Yes.
I want them to stay. Please stay. Also, Papa Smithy, he was on your show and Travis's show, Mark.
Was he?
Hotline League, yeah. So he shared his perspective on what he thought the effect of the crowd was on players. So take a listen.
I guess the one thing I will say, and another reason why I thought we came in really favored, is the amount of stage plus crowd rookies they have is going to affect Game 1. I thought I could definitely see some nerves with just how they were playing. Not even just the rookie players.
Yeah, I think this was one of the things coming in that we were all talking about. How is it going to affect different teams? And I think for a lot of GMs, players, staff, you play against these people all the time, you can look across and just see that like they don't seem like they're 100% in it, or they're getting distracted, or the moment's becoming too big for them. It felt like Papa was saying like, yeah, we probably would have beat them anyways, but that became an issue, it felt like, for Cloud9.
Yeah, and so that's why it's going to be interesting to hear from the players today, because even hearing from who he at the end of that end of day interview, he was talking about the fact that he was getting too hypey and that he had to calm himself in the
Right, yeah.
So like that's really funny, because even the veterans on those who's been on that big stage before, as who he has been in a final stage when he was with CLG, you kind of forget about that after being in your room for so long.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really fun to see how the Golden Guardians players are going to handle it, and or even Cloud9, because he was talking about Game 1 nerves, right? And
Well,
so I want to see how that kind of progresses.
And then we also were all wondering, like, what is C9 going to do after the loss to 100 Thieves? Because we think that exposed a lot of issues, whether or not that was being too one-dimensional with Summit, or asking the question, like, what can they change? They can change their support. That's what they've decided.
That's the answer.
So one of the players that we were just talking about being in their first stage game as a rookie would have been Winsome. They've subbed him out. They announced it in a video basically yesterday. They also had their academy team in Proving Grounds, then play with Winsome. They lost because it was clearly something that happened within the last week. And they've said this is going to help their communication and has helped their reviews. But what do you make of this move?
Yeah, I mean, I think watching the Proving Grounds, it was obvious that it definitely destabilized that bot lane. The bot lane was so confident coming in. But also, that is a credit to Isles, right? Because they really believed in him. They thought, you know, that bot lane, they were just like, we're going to poop on people. They were so confident. And so hopefully he can bring some sort of change to this team. I do think their bot lane has frequently been put in the position of kind of like, quote unquote, losing gracefully. And so maybe they think they'll be able to contest some of those 2v2s better with Isles in.
For me, it's always concerning that you're making these changes during the playoffs.
Yes.
I 100% believe in changes like these when you're going through the regular season and all that, but for them to feel like it was such a necessity during the playoffs is crazy to me. And so, do I like the change? Personally, I do. I actually think that your support should be working with your mid and jungle far more frequently. And be it, you know, they say communication helps for sure, and being able to be on the same page, but also just game knowledge and knowing that you like what timing you should be working with Blaber in this instance. He hasn't been doing it, so I like to see what Isles can do today.
There is some precedence for losing in the upper bracket, switching your supports, and then winning the split.
There it is, TSM.
TSM, when they did it with Firefrost. That was the good example. They were also down 0-2 after doing that, and then had the reverse sweep. I guess, so a question I have here is, does this make you more or less confident in C9? The fact that they've made the swap.
Oh, see, that's an interesting way of posing the question. Because what I was going to say, to combine with that, is that I think a lot of people watch that loss against 100 Thieves combined with the one at the end of the regular season. They're like, this is a 100 Thieves problem that Cloud9's running up against. But if you listen to their series, you know, they're talking about, oh, we're getting 0-15 in scrims. They lost to TSM.
And we thought that was just like
a joke.
A little fabricated.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm pretty sure they're actually not doing well behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know, the TSM series from week 7, there was the FlyQuest loss as well. Like, there are a number of, like, the evidence is now overwhelming to be like, C9's a little on fire. And you don't make a swap like this to the point that Raz is saying at this point in the year, even if it is ultimately for the best, unless things are really not working out. And that's why coming into this week, it's like so much uncertainty of like, well, I still think their pieces should win this matchup, but if their morale is low or like all these other things are going wrong, I don't think Isles coming in is going to save what is clearly going wrong with the rest of the team.
Yeah, and the team dynamic is something that changes a lot, because even if you're now new support and Isles can communicate with jungle and mid, well, like Winsome, you heard in a lot of those kind of mic checks, is translating for these players. For Summit.
You saw the Korean in lane next to you.
Yep. He's translating for Summit, Berserker at times. Of course, they're getting better at English, but even just hearing how a lot of times Summit can communicate, I mean, that dynamic now changes. So that's going to be a little concerning, but I think this is a good series to put him in, because you definitely don't want to put him in you know, the semifinals or something like that, where now everything's on the line.
well, also, if you think it's not going to work with Winsome, you're not going to have a chance to put him in any later.
True.
Like, it's the part of the lower bracket. Emily, what do you think about this?
So I think the timing, again, to Raz's point, I just want to see if this means that they'll contest the 2v2 more.
Yeah.
And or if there's increased communication between like Blaber, Fudge, and the support. Because when you think of a lot of just set plays on the map, as Mark said, that is actually heavily reliant on those 3 positions.
Yeah. The other position that I think had the majority of the conversation before they made it about the bot lane was obviously Summit. Really, really bad week. And I've been talking all year about Summit's champion pool, and I want to explain it a little bit more. So I brought notes.
Oh, there we go. That's a fun.
Anytime Jet has notes, I get worried.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to write some stuff on the board.
Okay,
so these are career stats. So Summit has actually played 312 career games, and Licorice has played 325 career games.
Oh, there we
so
go.
it's actually pretty close. So these numbers will be relatively comparative. It's not, so the way Summit generally plays is he masters a small portion of champions at the top of the meta, and he will blind pick them frequently and just win those matchups. But what that does is it makes your champion pool really top heavy. And we like the stats throughout his whole career back this up. So he's got 43 Aatrox, 39 Gnar, that's a 9, I promise. 30 Renekton, 22 Kennen. Then it dips to 12, 11, and 10.
Okay.
Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, big drop off after 5 champions, right?
Yeah.
We compare that with Licorice here, and he's got 30, 30, 20, 19, 19, 18, 14, 13.
Okay.
Right? It's way more gradual. So, like, actually, the top 5 of Summit is like 172, and the top of Licorice, I'm going to put it over here because it's black on yellow.
And you're doing this all in your head right now.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
that's
am.
incredible.
Well, I did it in my head before. It actually could be wrong, but it's going to be close. But it's more about like, you're not going to change generally this, but it has worked against Licorice, right? They played Gnar into a Graves. The Gnar carried the game, and in the first game, they were able to also win with that like hyper scaling comp. So just kind of thinking about the way the top lane champion matches up. What do you think, Emily?
Well, and I also think an interesting thing to partner with this is the last time we had an arrow on the desk, they actually had just played C9 and lost. And they specifically said that one thing they didn't want to do was shy away from the fact that they knew Summit was like this massive top laner, right? So if you see the quote here directly from Anero is on the screen right now, but summed up, it's basically like, you know, Eric wanted that matchup. Like he counterpicked Graves, I'm pretty sure. It went actually very, very poorly due to just a mistake. But like, I appreciated that from him, and this was something they had when C9 was doing well, when they were absolutely stomping.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting because they both approach top lane more or less the same way, with the differences, as Jap pointed out, in terms of champion pool, but they usually are blinding their champions. They're usually lane dominant. They've both played a lot of Gnar and Renekton this season when other people have moved away from that. And that's why I can see why Nero's like, we just have to be able to play against him our way. We can't shy away from it. Got it. I think that also then points the spotlight on Summit, because people have just been banning out those 3 champs that are currently meta that he plays a lot, the Jace, Gnar, and now they're like, all right, go take the Renekton. We don't care. Tryndamere is one that they might see banned as well. And I think to this point, if you're triple banning, even if that is biting into your champion pool as Licorice, you can say, well, I have more things in the can, and I'm really curious if they want to go head on and not ban anything, or ban them out and they both end up on their 4th, 5th pick.
And the funny thing is, some of the better games from Golden Guardians this split has been counter-picking and giving really the matchup there for Licorice. So I will remember the Fiora game. That one was versus Dignitas, I'm pretty sure. But then certainly the one versus 100 Thieves, I'm pretty sure they ended up losing that one anyways. But he trounced someday in the Gnar versus Sion matchup.
Yeah.
And so if Golden Guardians are going to win today, it's going to be based off of the larger champion pool, not even the ones that you had listed, that Licorice is willing to play, and the resources they're willing to give him.
Yeah, those are obviously just career numbers. The champions they're playing this year are going to be different, but I think the general trend remains the same. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. We will keep talking about it once we get on stage, but that is all for Waiting Room, and we are going to be heading up to the stage any moment. Take it away.
I would say Golden Guardians as a team aren't very good individually. However, there are some moments that they have where they have decent coordination as a team. And I think that's something we actually lack.
I think we are kind of on the come up, you know? Like, it's weird to say that because we had like a pretty good split, right? But we were a lot stronger at the beginning of the split, and then towards the end I felt like we were falling off. And I actually think that we we're trying to fix a lot of our problems, and it's getting better. So I'm happy like with our progress, even if we weren't able to show it today, because I thought like our practice this week didn't go too poorly. So I'm hoping next week can be better.
It would be nice to play against Cloud9 and finally get a win against them, since I haven't been able to win against them since I left the team. So like that would feel the best to me, I think.
I think support, especially when I play like Leona, Nautilus, like engaged champion, it's like I can be super troll or I can be super good support. It's like sometimes I engage well, people are like, wow, Olleh. Sometimes, wow, Olleh troll, he's trolling again, you know? It's like, I think that's like kind of how to say this, like baseball. It's like, you know, you need to hit more percentage. I think sometimes you have to like still go. But finally, you guys coming back to the stage. I hope you guys enjoy the game together.
Now that we're in the lower bracket, it's going to be a very, very long run.
3-0, 100 Thieves, the defending champions look to reclaim the title.
We won't get the chance to like start in the upper bracket, but it still works the same way, you know, like beat every team to win.
Going for a chat's in trouble. First blood for Licorice, and the 2v2 Renekton man, he just can't be fighting the bear and the croc. That's an easy double for Licorice.
I think it's just our last chance. Now that we're in the lower bracket, it's our last chance to do well.
Berserker! And Berserker keeps going. Fudge keeps going. What a team
It would be nice to play against Cloud9 and finally get a win against them, since I haven't been able to win against them since I left the team. That would feel the best to me.
I think all their players are solid, but I don't feel like they have one standout player. I think as long as we play our game, we will be just fine. I think we're going to 3-0 them.
Welcome back to the LCS. We've moved to the stage now for Cloud9 versus Golden Guardians. Losers bracket match. Losers season is over, which would have been unthinkable for Cloud9 2 weeks ago when we were thinking they were going to be the #1 seed. And the biggest, by far the biggest point of discussion about that series and the season for them was Summit. Difference maker, right? Won so many other games in the regular season, was also a difference maker in that first playoff series. So who wants to start?
I'll go for it. I think a lot of people are being hyperbolic. I know that KDA in front of you is going to be a little hyperbolic.
I mean, you're exaggerating.
Yes.
2-23 is not that bad.
That's, oh no. But yeah, it was a really, really rough series. And of course, this is just the last 4 games that they had versus 100 Thieves in general, right? And 100 Thieves not only was Someday doing incredibly well all season long, but also Closer's entire idea of how to play the game has been go topside, get Someday ahead, and then try and trickle that down to the rest of the map. And so let's see if Golden Guardians can mimic that strategy or have something else up the sleeve.
And I don't see that necessarily coming out of Golden Guardians because it hasn't really been their playstyle. They do rely on Pridestalker to kind of farm up and Licorice to do whatever in the matchup they choose for him. So I am wondering if that at all is going to change in this series.
For me, the Licorice Summit matchup is very interesting because I've heard Licorice described by some of the other top laners as being like one of the best laners in the league. Everyone says Summit's the very best laner, but Licorice is the one who tries to challenge them. And the game, when we did see them try and challenge Summit, it did go horribly. But at the start of it, it was an incredibly slim margin. So do I think that's going to happen 3 games out of 5 in favor of Licorice? No, but I don't think personally it's going to be as one-sided as it was in the regular season, which makes this a very interesting matchup, especially with the history of Licorice coming in there, former C9 member, quick dip into FlyQuest, and now back on to Golden Guardians.
I mean, he's basically their most veteran player. It's him and Olleh as the two that have a lot of experience, international experience as well, going to these tournaments and being relied on by a team. And so now in this eliminations matchup, I think Licorice will be a huge focus that if it doesn't go well for them up there, the entire game plan might fall apart.
Yeah.
And I think I love this story as well with Licorice because a lot of times, like, we don't have that much legacy with so many of the players we have in the LCS, but we actually have it here. And Licorice talked a lot when he was on FlyQuest about the struggles he had to go through of trying to be a little bit of a leader because when he was on Cloud9, he was just a guy who played top lane. And he wasn't really going beyond that. And he's definitely, I think, had one of his best splits in the last 3 or 4 years on Golden Guardians and has a big chance of making a huge statement if he plays well today.
Especially versus his former team that he came into the league with, right? Versus Cloud9. And he always talked about those times in which he was like the younger guy on a successful team full of veterans. And then, yes, when he went to FlyQuest, he really had to work on those leadership skills. And I think Golden Guardians level of Licorice is going to be a combination of the two. And this is a great challenge for him. We're looking at the junglers. For me, it's going to be about how they work in tandem with their laners. Pridestalker is someone I'll focus on a little bit. We talked about him earlier on in the show of just how much he has improved overall and how big of an impact he's had in the LCS. And for me, if I look at his jungle proximity really early on, he's pretty low because he focuses a lot on just farming and getting himself ahead first. That has just been Golden Guardian's strategy. And I think he needs to kind of tweak that a little bit in trying to work around Cloud9's failures recently.
I agree. And on the flip side for Blaber, when people are like, who can help Summit? Because Summit, if he's not working, you need someone to be your backup plan. That should be Blaber. And in that series last week, in Game 2, for example, on the Diana pick, they had a single kill through 24 minutes. And he can be an absolute beast in the early game. And so they need someone else to step up in this matchup. And I really hope it's Blaber on Volibear, on hopefully Lee Sin, some of the more aggressive early game champions, to go make a splash, go get these lanes ahead, and don't let them just sit there farming.
I actually big agree because even on some of those farming champions, I brought this up last week, but Blaber had said, like, I can still play this early game. I can still affect my lanes. We didn't see that last week, and I would love to see more of that kind of style coming out of him, even if it is just essentially go top, make sure Summit is set, because once he's set, he should be able to control that lane.
I found it so interesting looking at that graphic, how Blaber actually has a lower jungle proximity than Pridestalker.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though all the conversation has been about how Pridestalker is this farming jungler who just gets experience advantages and then try to carry, Blaber is less. I do want to almost defend this low percentage from Blaber because I've followed his stats and his 2 MVPs really closely. He always has low jungle proximity percentage, but he is incredibly efficient with the time he spends near his teammates. So I wouldn't read in too much to that stat of him being like a high farm player. He is a 2-time MVP, and I think if Summit isn't going to be what we think is going to be a spring MVP Summit, Blaber is going to be the guy who has to carry them through this series.
Exactly, and if I think a proximity should change will be him towards his support. I think Isles is somebody that I'm expecting to work alongside Blaber, who knows his limits a lot. And so if he's the type of player that if he's playing Lee Sin, Diana, whatever it may be, is the type of person that's going to challenge matchups, having the support in his back pocket like who he and Closer did, right? In the series that they had prior, will help immensely.
That's why I think that the champion pool matters a lot too. Diana can make things happen in the early game, but give Blaber the tools right out the gate to go make a big splash. Like you said, the kills and assists are still they're still super high for him because he's really efficient about the ganks and he just needs the tools to make them happen.
I want to get into predictions.
Go.
We got about 3 minutes and 40 seconds before we get into this one. Cloud9, 3-0'd by 100 Thieves. They are 2-0 against Golden Guardians in the regular season. We're following the graphic here. So Raz, your prediction's going first.
For me, it's going to be Cloud9, but I do think Golden Guardians are going to take a game. So for me, 3-1.
Mark?
God, I just know this is going to be so boring because we talked about how strange it is. All the data is like C9 doesn't seem to be doing scrims. They're making substitutions in playoffs. But I also say 3-1 C9. But it just feels so weird to say that.
Emily?
I said 3-2 C9.
Oh!
Okay.
Getting close.
Give us the spice, Jet. We're saving you for the end, right?
Predictions. Guys, there's so much you hear, and there's so many negative trend lines for C9. They usually pull it up in the last second.
No.
Golden Guardians has a chance.
Do it.
They have a chance.
Stop it.
Listen, it's not going to flip as badly as it did for the 2 games in the regular season. We just don't have, we have all this regular season observable data from Cloud9.
Yeah.
I'm making this bet partially off of what is unobservable. If things haven't been able to twist in the way C9 wants them to and they can't make another last-minute adjustment, they subbed out a season-long starter. And we heard about it yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's happened for a week. And Golden Guardians has been grooving on what they're trying to improve on the entire year. So that's where I think they have a chance to upset. And I had to get this out there, so it shows that the series is not a done deal.
Hey, I like that. You know what? A lot of people are thinking it. Not a lot of people want to say it. I think it's hyperbolic in a way that...
That they have a chance?
No, well, yes.
Jet, you're crazy. Is what he wants to say that. He's not going to say it, but it's what he means.
Yes. Me, Mark, I would say Emily was crazy just because the fact that it would go to 5 games. I understand how good Golden Guardians have been for so long.
All right.
But it's just been, the players are really good. They went up against a top-notch 100 Thieves.
Okay,
That's
I heard a cheer for the Golden Guardians chant. Or do we have more? How many want Golden Guardians to win here? Is there a large proportion?
Quite a lot of people.
This is surprising. Normally, Cloud9 dominates these chants. I didn't hear any cheers for Cloud9. Where's Cloud9?
What I want to know is who has the first pick Renekton sign?
That is a very interesting reaction.
The crowd is more, as that's a great sign. It does sound like there's more people cheering for the upset, which makes you also wonder, is it just the field? Like, are there TSM fans, 100 Thieves fans, TL fans in the audience who all want to watch Cloud9 burn?
Everyone's an underdog fan.
Emily, final thoughts.
It's going to depend highly on draft. Also,
Game 1 is
I
huge.
think it's going to be like massive because I really want to see what C9 does in draft after last week.
All right, well, we know there's a surprising number of Golden Guardians fans in the house.
They all
Props to
came
them
out.
for having the growth. Cloud9, surprisingly, I think a little bit of a test right here early on in the playoffs to see if they can make it to Houston. That's going to do it from us on the desk. Let's get in the show open. We'll see you guys soon.
Hello and welcome everybody to the LCS. I missed this. It feels so good to see all your faces in here tonight. So thank you so much for coming along. Whether you're here in the arena or tuning in at home, we're very, very lucky to have you. It is getting awfully serious here in the LCS playoffs for spring 2022. We're in the lower bracket now. There are no chances left for any of these teams, so let's start by bringing them out onto the stage. Our first team taking the stage today is none other than Cloud9! And their opponents for today, give it up for the Golden Guardians! And with that, best of luck to all our competitors taking to the stage today. We are going to go up to the caster desk now, but before we get there, give it up one more time for our two teams, Cloud9 and Golden Guardians.
Woo! Feels good to be in the studio this Saturday afternoon. Cloud9 and Golden Guardians taking off. I'm LeTigress. This is Azael. Are you hype?
I am hype. I'm really excited to see, is the Cloud9 death over-exaggerated? Everyone's talking about, Cloud9 falling off last 2 weeks of the split, having a rough series, obviously, last week, now up against Golden Guardians. Chad even predicting that they're going to lose. Is it really that dire for Cloud9 that they have been falling off so hard? What is the draft going to be for game number 1, I think is what everyone is really, really curious about. I'm so interested to see, is Golden Guardians going to try to emulate what 100 Thieves did against C9? Are they going to have the same plan in draft, multiple bans early on towards Summit, just try to play to neutralize top? Because that really hasn't been Licorice's style. He is more similar to Summit in that he wants to play lane dominant. His most played by far is the Gnar, same as Summit. So it's going to be interesting. Cloud9 is on blue side, even though it feels like red side has been absolutely dominating in the LCS playoffs so far.
Yeah, the majority of the games that were won being on that red side. And I think a lot of people are aligned with you, Azael, in that Cloud9 losing a bit of stock over not just the recent series, but some of their last games of the season. Golden Guardians showing the strength when they do have it. Is it going to be enough to trample Cloud9?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really interesting, right? So there's the Jace, the Gnar, both getting banned out immediately. But Cloud9, you have to have been expecting this. So I'm curious, A, is it going to be a triple ban towards topside? And B, what Cloud9 have prepped for this? What is going to be the answer? Because, well, yeah, Summit did have a rough couple of games against 100 Thieves. He felt like the runaway favorite to win MVP, and I believe he will likely win that. Lee Sin first pick here, though. Pretty standard bans from Cloud9. Double ban towards topside, and the Zeri getting taken off the table away from Berserker, who has been incredible on it. Of course, also really interested to see what Isles is going to be playing. He is a guy that is kind of more known for the range supports, which speaks to playing more of a lane dominant style. That's not really how Cloud9 played with Berserker and Winsome. They were more stable in lane. Winsome not as lane dominant for sure. And it was more about the team fighting there for Berserker. With Nocturne coming through, I wonder if we're going to get Nocturne Kennen, a comp that is getting more popular and that we did see come out a few times already in the LCS playoffs. Turn off the lights, look for the flank, and it's a relatively strong pick.
Even in the tiebreaker that Golden Guardians faced off against FlyQuest, Licorice did bring out that Kennen. There was a bit of misfortune with an exhaust being a key shutdown component in that, but you could see the strength that can come from that pick and a lot of the reliance upon his pool and what he can bring. But it's part of the bot lane being locked in here. Xayah coming into the Rift.
Yeah, MF is available, and that's just going to get snap locked. So insta-lock on the MF. It's the Renekton hover. We don't know if it's going to get locked.
Whenever there's fans here, I can never make any hover.
Look at Fudge's face. He knows what he's doing.
Oh, is it the Renekton? Is it the Ivan? Where's the Teemo?
Man, they're all cracking up. You gotta love that. They're not taking it too serious, having a bit of a laugh. They know the Renekton was not a popular pick with the fans. Leona, MF, though, really strong bot lane duo here, getting locked in. The setup for that combo. Leona has the lockdown. MF with the ultimate to follow through can be really, really devastating. Not one of the most safe marksmen, though, especially if you're expecting dive to come through. Braum, very interesting. So going pretty defensive here. It is a strong answer to MF. You can block out the bullet time with your shield. That is pretty powerful. But you are going to need some sort of a dive buddy for Nocturne. That's kind of why I was expecting, hey, maybe it's going to be a Recon for that pairing. Looking for engage from support. They obviously have a go button with Pridestalker, but someone has got to be there to actually follow up with him. You can't solo dive into the back line as that Nocturne. So I'm curious then, because I'm looking towards Licorice to be that dive buddy. Who is going to be the champion that he's going for? As Camille going to get banned out. So that would be one of the possible ones.
Yeah, still keeping that top lane pick under Hidden Guise. Cloud9 taking away the Ahri, targeting that mid lane here, but definitely have some of that late game team fighting with that Leona, with the MF, as you mentioned. You know, the Lee Sin, I think one important thing, we talked so much about closer on the Lee Sin during the previous series, but it was before that Fudge was calling how Blaber best Lee Sin in North America.
I mean,
and still very formidable.
The Cloud9 fans have abandoned them. Look at the fan vote for the draft. People not feeling the Cloud9 picks thus far. Blaber really, really strong on the Lee Sin. It's a double solo lane bans here from Golden Guardians, of course. Rise going to get taken away from Fudge. Camille being banned away there from Summit. So looking further down the pool, you know, Tryndamere is another pick that Summit has gone to. You know, his most played by far is Gnar, but that's the same for Licorice. His second most played is in fact the Tryndamere. And then it's kind of a smattering of different options. Also really curious to see if it is going to be something, you know, completely out of left field, something different. And if Licorice will be the blind pick here, if they're going to save that for Ablazeolive. I feel like it makes more sense to blind mid and save Licorice's pick for 5th, just because of the struggles that Summit has been having. Golden Guardians, I think, would be wise to try to emulate some of that, to try to have a good nullifying pick there for Licorice, because at least last week, if you could shut down Summit, it looked like Cloud9 didn't have a lot else really going on, but it's going to be blind Ornn. So now the question that is on everyone's mind will get answered. What is going to be the answer here? You know, do you go heavily towards split? Do you play an aggressive, you know, ranged matchup into this? Rumble would be interesting, and I think actually fits pretty well as far as the kind of team fighting that they're building out here, but
see what he ends up wanting to take into that lane, because on the opposite side for Licorice on the Ornn, making sure that you have that late game engage, some stability that you can work around. You don't necessarily have to attack in the same way, but Cloud9 here with this lock-in, taking the Viktor for some very reliable scaling to come out of the mid lane from Fudge.
You just get a smile on their face every time they hover it.
I mean, nothing like fans cheering, right? And that's one way to get it to come on through. But Cloud9, it doesn't look like that's what they're going to do. Gangplank instead layering a lot of these AoE ultimates upon one another for some very great execution later on.
Yeah, this is really interesting, though, because you know, he's definitely not known for his GP. Career total, 4 GP games for Summit. Has never won a game on GP in competitive play. So it is a newer champion for him, you know, something that he's obviously tried to pick up probably over this last little bit of time after they did lose out. But if people are going to blind tanks into you, GP is a great answer. Corki comes in 5th pick here. It's just scaling in the mid lane. But GP in isolation, you know, relatively safe to play by yourself on that top side. Not someone that requires a ton of pressure. Blaber could play more heavily towards bot side and enable the engages from Leona and Lee Sin, use that cross map ulti, just farm it up, play it slow and steady. But a lot of scaling on both sides here, and a much more powerful front line on the Golden Guardians team. So it will be really tough, I think, for Cloud9 come 5v5.
I mean, Cloud9 and Golden Guardians both setting their mark here, and a different look on both sides, right? We are wondering how Golden Guardians were going to look to counter some of the weaknesses that were identified in Cloud9's lineup in their previous series. But Cloud9, they want to keep their hopes here strong. One of these teams will be eliminated completely from playoffs. The other one looking to make the continuation of their run. Let's find out who it's gonna be. Little bit of a pause here right off the start, so we'll take an extra moment.
I really hate to see it happen. It's going to be a fun one, though. So obviously, you know, Golden Guardians trying to emulate a little bit of what we saw from 100 Thieves. You know, was someday playing the Ornn constantly in that series. Licorice going to be doing that here, but a very different pick coming out on the side of C9 to answer. Maybe an issue with summoner spells, I believe, is what I'm getting told. That accidentally swapped as they went in game, so we may have to reload. Obviously going to give you that info as we do get it. But it's gonna be a really interesting game to see how that actually does play out.
And I mean, even when you were all talking on the dive, I remember Mark bringing special notice to that top lane matchup as we've been working through, because when they faced off in the past, we've seen Licorice go with those aggressive picks to try and go toe-to-toe. But then in playoffs, when you're gearing up more towards a lot of those late game scenarios, having that effective tank, somebody that can really provide a lot of pressure in particular ways is helpful.
Well, and they need someone else to be able to kind of go in and help to engage, not just the Nocturne. If you send the Nocturne solo, it's just not going to work out for you. But Licorice, it's a tough job for him to contain Summit on the top side, and Licorice has not had a good time against Cloud9 since leaving the team. Across FlyQuest and Golden Guardians, he's actually 0-10 against Cloud9 ever since he left. So he hasn't even picked up a single game against them. They would need to win 3, of course, if they want to actually knock Cloud9 out. But that would be huge for Golden Guardians, would be huge for Licorice. This time around, though, obviously much different matchup as far as the champions go, because last 2 times they did play, Summit got his Gnar both games. And that is really kind of what he's known for being absolute world class on. The Gnar, the Jace, those are the picks that people really do pinpoint.
Definitely a bit of things to work through when you're looking at that previous record when facing off against a team. One interesting thing when Blaber was speaking about this matchup and how there's not really a clear star on Golden Guardians, almost like it was a detriment. But in some ways, if you look at Golden Guardians and the way they're able to play around the early game, bringing that pressure in different ways, you can look at that as a positive. Perhaps they can come together in a way that can overtake Cloud9 through their team potential.
Yep, absolutely. So did get a little bit of information. There was a bug when the players loaded in, changed someone's summoner spell, so they are going to remake the game. Same draft, of course, and we will be getting back into the action here pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people talk about Golden Guardians early game, so I did a little bit of digging into it to kind of like look at how they're creating leads. It's interesting because they're known as kind of having a strong early game, and it is the only team outside of the upper bracket teams that actually have a positive goal difference at 15 in the league. So up in that top 5 for that. But the way in which they create the leads is kind of different than a lot of other teams. Traditionally, when you think about teams, they're towards the lower end of the league, when they create advantages, it's through kills. Golden Guardians actually has by far the lowest first blood rate in the league, only 21%. So about 1 in every 5 games are they the ones getting first blood. They actually create their leads almost exclusively through taking Herald and taking first tower. They actually have the second highest rate of first tower in the league. Fortunately for them, Cloud9 has first. Both teams that like to really prioritize playing for lane, playing for that Herald, knocking down turrets to create an early gold lead. So you might expect some skirmishes and some kind of priority from both teams to play around that.
And that really highlights all that much more the similarities in the play styles between Summit and Licorice, because Licorice does have good laning, and because of that, you can play towards that top side, try and secure things like Rift Herald. But if you're facing off against the team in Cloud9 that does that but a little bit better, how much do you index into that to try and just kind of elbow them out, shove them to the side a little bit, or bring that power elsewhere? And on Cloud9 side, when you're deciding to go for something like a Gangplank, something Summit hasn't played as frequently, that has that potential to affect elsewhere on the map, and that is a lot of the reason that he's locked in, you wonder how they are going to play in that way as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is Cloud9 going to try to play bot dominant? They're bringing in different support, playing with Isles and Berserker. Obviously, they haven't had as much time together, but they are playing common MF, something that is quite lane dominant, does have a lot of power. So it'll be really exciting to see if they want to play more towards that bot side, try to stack early dragons, push the pace of the game by doing that, using GP from top side to kind of be that extra player, extra half player with the ultimate. Player is now back in the lobby, so we will be launching the game here pretty quick, and then they just have to blaze through picks and bans, and we can get this one started.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Isles does here as well. Those that have been watching the LCS remember seeing him in some of the lock-in games, but he's also been on Cloud9 Academy for some time, having a decent amount of games alongside King, alongside Sven, and even though a lot of the ranged matchups are what he's indexed into in the past, he does have a lot of that engage available to him, Leona being as many other supports. One of the picks he's been picking up, the Leona, the Nautilus, those that can really lock down the opponent and set up for the rest of the team. So having that here can be someone to facilitate for the Cloud9 squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he definitely plays a lot of the melee sports as well. You kind of have to in this meta where a lot of teams are drafting support as their only engage. But he is more known for his kind of range support play. But with this style of composition, Cloud9 doesn't have engage coming anywhere else, so you're going to have that on your shoulders. And I do think that's a lot of pressure for someone like Isles, who's getting subbed into the LCS roster. You're already in the lower bracket. There's no room to mess up here. You know, there's going to be a lot of eyes on you, a lot of pressure on your shoulders to perform immediately in a game like this, in a series like this, where it is for Cloud9's playoff lives.
I mean, that is a lot. I think you cannot underemphasize that, right? In front of a crowd, a few games to the name could potentially end the spring run for Cloud9, or you could be that force that comes through and kind of catalyzes momentum, some, you know, fresh blood coming in, everyone is excited, gets the nerves converted in a good way to secure the victory.
And I think that's why these first games in a series are so important for young players and for players who haven't had as much stage experience, who haven't played in front of crowds. You know, being able to come out of the gates, have a good game number one, you know, get those positive feelings kind of going and get some confidence in your own play, as they are now picking through here. So we'll be launching very shortly. It's going to be really, really interesting. You know, we've seen the swing that Golden Guardians has taken. You know, they obviously have prepped for this, you know, in trying to emulate somewhat what 100 Thieves are doing. The GP, obviously the answer from Cloud9, and now we just have to see how it actually shakes out, right? You know, who is going to come away with the advantages in game one? Because if one of these strategies falls flat on its face, then you may have to pivot heavily, you know, for game number two. And then that really begs the question, like, how many other strategies, how many other preparations have these teams actually made?
Yeah, it's one thing where everyone's saying, oh, 100 Thieves laid out the grand plan, just follow that. But you have to assume there's also adaptations on both ways, and you need other strategies when things go awry.
For sure, yeah. I mean, Cloud9 obviously knows what kind of worked and what didn't against 100 Thieves, and they're going to have their adaptations. But also, it's a lot easier said than done. 100 Thieves just played an incredible series. I think Closer, in particular, was outstanding. It's a very tough ask for anyone to emulate his level of performance from that series, because he dominated. And so it's not as easy as just pick a tank topside, because Closer ran over that series. And you know, Pridestalker, I think will have a tough time, you know, playing up to that level, because I think Closer, you know, played some of the best League of Legends we've seen from any jungler this year.
Yeah, picks are only part of it. Play is another. But, I mean, this is the first time we're seeing Golden Guardians on the stage in playoffs, which means there's really not much you can lock down in terms of expectations.
Yeah, they've had a lot of time to prep.
Yeah, a lot of new faces, too. I mean, you're thinking about Olleh and when he came into the scene and really trying to draw upon the energy that everyone is bringing into their arena this time to come through for Golden Guardians, and Cloud9 hopefully building up a bit of momentum for themselves.
All right, we are finally getting onto the rift here. Game number one about to kick off. Cloud9 versus Golden Guardians.
Let's get it. Game one, drafts locked onto the rift we go. So one thing as far as looking at these two teams, we talk a bit about the individual picks that everyone's brought through, but as far as overarching strategies, what would you say is the bottom line for each squad?
I mean, I think for Golden Guardians, it's really just playing to scale. You know, Xayah, Corki, incredibly strong in the later stages. They're looking for 5v5. Ornn, really strong scaling pick, of course, as well. You know, bringing in the Ornn upgrades later on. For Cloud9, you know, they can play more heavily through sides, you know, using the GP. I think they can also play pretty heavily for, you know, their setups. It's going to be important to find those engages, set up the Viktor and MF for success, because they have a tremendous amount of AoE damage.
Yeah, those that have the responsibility of the setup, though, making sure that sweat stays nice and cool on the brow and not gather too early here. But standard start here across the board. Everybody at the line of scrimmage. Some forward positioning from Olleh, just seeing if anybody comes through that riverside, but ready to retreat and gets the lane started.
Yep, absolutely. It is going to be airy here for Fudge. So playing more for the poke. Pretty standard stuff as far as the runes do go. It is going to be common MF. Very likely lethality going to be, you know, bought up by the MF, which is going to mean, you know, it's more on the Viktor to really get through the Ornn in the later stages. And then the other side, also expecting lethality Xayah, given that we are doing the airy start. It is not lethal tempo, so it likely will not be on hit. It will just be the kind of Q-Max Xayah looking for poke, trying to battle against Berserker here, who is, of course, going to be on the E start. And both of these guys, you know, a lot of it is going to be down to how much poke can you land, can you push out the other AD.
Yeah, both of them definitely looking to do so. Berserker has been a name that has come up as well, who we don't always talk about as much in the earlier stages of the game, but is pretty reliable once he gets into that scaling capacity.
I mean, his team fighting is incredible, and as much as people talk about, you know, 100 Thieves running over Cloud9 in that series, you know, Cloud9 was knocking on the Nexus in game 2, I believe it was, and Berserker had some incredible team fighting that gave them opportunities to win, that gave them chances to make some of those games closer than they otherwise would have been. He has been immaculate with his team fighting. His positioning was very, very good. He consistently is putting out a ton of damage. So Berserker has been really, really important, but Cloud9 have just not been lane dominant. And of course, that is multiple pieces to the puzzle. It's not just on Berserker. It's about the duo that he had with Winsome. So Cloud9 perhaps looking to play a little bit more lane dominant here, trying to create those advantages by bringing in Isles.
That might be the strat for them here, pushing up already directly, using the AoE of the abilities to clear the waves as much as possible, and buy some time for the junglers to make their pathing as well, because Blaber and Pridestalker both did start over on that top side. Licorice falling to about 50% HP here, but has some mobility to get out of range. Blaber's made his way through. It's warded up in Cloud9's favor. And even a step up of Isles to try and bait some attention here. Yeah, Pridestalker's over here on his Braum, just picked up that blue. See if there's any response. Licorice is low, has the pots popped. No more sustain available to him, so he's gonna take a back right now to teleport back to lane.
Yeah, Summit actually doing a really good job of utilizing his passive. Every single time Trial by Fire was up, he was going for that true damage auto, getting that down, getting the grass procs, really kind of just bullying the Ornn in these early levels. Is some fantastic early laning. Already procced Grasp 10 times in this early on in the lane is very, very impressive. He's been using the barrels well to reset his passive and to constantly get those procs. So really nice early lane here from Summit. Should be able to base up. He's easily going to have his Sheen buy and going to be feeling really good about that as your first base. It is kind of just a full 6-camp clear for both junglers. They both pick up a scuttle. As Blaber did get the bot scuttle thanks to their bot lane prio, but didn't actually go back up towards top to try to double scuttle. And so far, so good here for both teams. Pretty stable laning. The first base is coming through. It was, of course, the tier start for Berserker. They were kind of forcing out a couple potions from Lost, but not able to create any sort of a massive advantage and just used it to get a quick early recall there.
Recalls coming through over on the GG bot lane side too, doing just that. The wards being pretty standard as well. Ablazeolive making sure to throw that into the enemy jungle so they could notice if we saw Blaber going in any aggressive pathing, but still not wanting to be too on your tippy toes right here. They just want to hold it back a little bit.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of great lanes to actually gank here for Blaber. Maybe if Licorice is overextended or bot line is overextended, you can try to go for some sort of a play. But, Lost has Cleanse and Olleh has Exhaust, so it's going to be very difficult, for Leona to really set anything up and for you to actually follow through and have enough damage down. So Isles moving towards mid. This looks like a move to actually help him reset the wave. Use your Targon stack. Fudge is out of mana, so he's just looking to actually get his base off here. And as soon as he shows mid, they're going to try to punish Berserker a little bit down on that bottom side. And as expected, both of these marksmen going to be going towards that lethality build. But Licorice could be in some trouble here. Trial by Fire is up, so he has to get back to that tower. And now, being this low, does have one biscuit remaining, but he's going to have to base. And this is where you will start to lose something off of this, as there's no teleport available this time around. Summit's going to be able to shove this in. Should be able to deny at least one full wave, even though it is going to be a cannon wave coming in.
I mean, the 1v1 is Summit's favorite place to be, as you can see in the way he was pressuring there. So Licorice punished for having to use that teleport earlier. Both teleports down from the top laners, as well as Fudge in mid. The dragon has spawned and was warded out effectively with a lot of the controls on the side of Golden Guardians and the rotations from Isles to make sure there's no aggressive push past that.
And I mean, it's just been a very passive early game here. One of the big parts of the 100 Thieves game plan was not only did they go for these neutralizing picks like the tanks, but they actually heavily pressured Summit. They attacked him very much in the early game. And Pridestalker obviously playing the Nocturne, going to be difficult to do that. Not going to have that early game pressure, is trying to power farm up here. And Cloud9 will just start up this dragon. They have bot lane prio, with this MF here, tier start, Comet, and they're going to be able to grab a first dragon here very early on. So Cloud9 taking this almost on spawn, unless Golden Guardians want to try to commit to this.
We'll see. No ultimates there just yet. Isles goes in, and Olleh throws down the Q onto Blaber, the exhaust onto Berserker, but Ablazeolive has made his way through. He's between multiple members of Cloud9, though, zipping on down. First blood to Berserker. Does Cloud9 want more? Yes, they do. Isles goes for it with the E again. Olleh is marked down low, but he's zoned out by a single support, which means that his teammate is going to go down. Pridestalker has fallen. Olleh finds safety, but Cloud9 take the dragon to start stacking him up.
Oh, huge win for Cloud9 on that bottom side. Again, GP can join, but Ornn cannot because he drops the cross-map ulti there. They get 2 kills on a Berserker. They grab the dragon as well. as Blaber actually got 2 smites off and barely survived, you know, with the heal from both of those. First smite used on the Scuttle, the second one at the very end on the Dragon. They see Pridestalker coming over. They drop the GP ulti as Isles flashes in. But look at Blaber here, down very, very low. Uses the smite to get that heal off of the Scuttle Crab. Fudge moving in, though. So much AoE damage coming across from this Viktor. And from Berserker helping to chase them down, get this second kill here. And then again, Blaber very, very low, kiting back. The smite charge comes back up again, and he's able to smite to secure that and survive against the Dragon. Well played by Cloud9. This is exactly how you would want these early stages to go. Now for Cloud9, though, you have to track the first Nocturne ulti because you've got to know Pridestalker is hitting 6, and it's your job to try to find out where he is, either through deep wards or have Blaber hovering these lanes, because Summit has been dominating in that 1v1 on top side. He's already up 20 CS, but he is very squishy, so you've got to protect him from that first Nocturne ulti. And I think if Golden Guardians get nothing from that, the game's going to get really, really tough.
That is the key. Going into that last fight, Summit and Fudge were the only ones that were 6. Ablazeolive right at the tail end, hitting it before he entered the fight. Now we do have that paranoia up and available for Pridestalker. Everyone else starting to catch up as well. Lost and Olleh still waiting to hit their spikes. Very typical for the supports on both sides, but you're also being wary about the weakness of your AD carry.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, there's no flash on Lost. There's no sums whatsoever on Olleh. There is, you know, just one flash piece, you know, on both of those sides. Cleanse is available for Lost, but if you hit 6 on Leona, you can force the cleanse with the ulti, follow up with the Zenith Blade. Any sort of lockdown into Berserker's ultimate that is available could definitely be a kill. So Cloud9 can continue to look to try to punish in this area. Golden Guardians, though, nice little bit of vision clear here. They see Cloud9 push in. They know that they move to actually look for the ward. So Olleh comes up, sweeps that out, trying to keep eyes off their Nocturne. You know, really that is the way that you answer Nocturne. Because he can ult from over the walls, he can ult from pretty far distance, he's actually warding out the camps, knowing where he is before he goes for the play.
It's that regular ebb and flow that you see from Berserker and Isles, and you saw from Berserker and Winsome prior too. Just making sure you step just up enough into that enemy jungle so you can spot where they are with the pathing, but don't overcommit if you don't need to, because obviously Lost and Olleh were responding very effectively. So still making sure to be tempered here and you don't give away any unnecessary pressure.
Yep, Cloud9 though taking the most out of this. You know, they're already over here onto Herald. They have had push in mid lane. They are winning through top lane, so Blaber feeling comfortable to do this. Isles moves up, Berserker moves across as well. They are going to be losing at least a plate, I would assume, in bot lane because Xayah did not move. So 1 plate already down there, so that will be the cost thus far. We'll see if he can actually get a second, but Berserker can likely start moving back immediately, so it probably will just be the 1 plate that they take, as Cloud9 should be back in time to answer. And it's a good play for Herald towards topside. And as I said, that is how Golden Guardians creates their advantages. It's not actually through kills, it is generally through farm, it is through taking Herald, it is through grabbing tower with that. But with Herald already on Cloud9's side, with multiple winning lanes for them, you can't see Golden Guardians really being able to grab the first tower of this game.
I mean, Lost is another one, too, that you're looking to just play that patient game, has been strong in his positioning in some of the team fights, but he's not going to be the one in this top side play. Can't make his way there. Ornn flash through immediately. The paranoia comes on down. Here's Nocturne right under the tower. They take 1. Golden Guardians get on the board. Blaber connects with the Q, but won't go for it.
Great first ulti there coming through. Really early flash from Summit. He just tried to get back to his tower to try to buy some time for Blaber to get up there. Does not work out, though. They do get the kill. It goes on to Licorice. You would have preferred it on the Nocturne, but still going to be feeling really good about executing on that first ultimate. It's so important for Nocturne to be able to continue power farming, ult on cooldown, get pressure out on the map every time that is available. And with Golden Guardians, having so much late game, so much scaling, not only through the composition, but they have 3 tiers scaling up. They are playing much more of a late game style. So as long as they don't get blown out early by Cloud9, they are going to be really competitive in the team fights.
And even with that assist, able to finish off the stride breaker here for Pridestalker. So Mythic completed and online to be a powerful force. Ablazeolive is funneled directly here into the riverside. Flashes over the wall as soon as the Chaos Storm is dropped. A Blaber, a flash and a kick to boot. Licorice here doesn't quite get the knockup, but the death ray is strong. It doesn't matter. Golden Guardians get 1. A kill once again.
Yeah, Blaber tries to go in for the play. They're not expecting Pridestalker to be in the area, but he missed his first Q, so when he actually kicked him, his Q is still on cooldown, so he doesn't have the Sonic Wave to follow up immediately. And then Ablazeolive gets out of that kick, sidesteps it. This is going to cost them the Dragon on the bottom side very likely as well, which means they lose their kind of soul stacking condition here very early on. Golden Guardians, a big swing back, hitting a couple of important kills and critically taking away Dragon, slowing down that stack towards soul.
Slashing the Dragons 1-to-1, slashing the gold a bit down as well, keeping it tight so that they can make sure to have an impact in this game. And those little micro moments are exactly what you need on Golden Guardian's side to start identifying some openings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cloud9 just over-forcing there. There's not much else to say about it. You know, when you go for this first play and you miss the Q, you pretty much just have to accept, all right, we pushed him out, go back towards mid, drop Herald, and go set up for the Dragon. But so since his first Q missed, he goes over, he kicks him, but he doesn't have the Sonic Wave off cooldown, so he's not able to follow up perfectly. Ablazeolive, nice little sidestep there. You know, Pridestalker on bot side, but Licorice able to answer him, and not much of a reaction there. Like, it's just a little bit of a laugh, you know.
A little cheeky, you know, rise of the corner up, but here's some more action now. Forge God calls upon it once again, and Summit is in the center of it all. A fear to make sure you can't get away. Golden Guardians up in the kills in this game.
Yeah, nicely done. Another ult right off cooldown towards topside. Cloud9 have not been able to get any of the deep wards, looking towards a play for mid, but Olleh is here, so he's gonna be fine. I mean, you just gotta look at this vision on this top side. You look at this quadrant on the map, there's no vision in there. There's no vision in here. Golden Guardians has done a really good job at actually clearing out all of those wards, having defensive pinks to have good spots for Pridestalker to ult from. And if you can't track where he is on these camps, it's very difficult to stay safe. You know, Summit creates advantages by pushing in and harassing Licorice at tower, you know, taking plates in his face. But now a couple kills already over to Licorice, and it's going to get much more difficult to actually bully this Ornn. It's going to be the Essence Reaver rush here from Summit. So, you know, very strong early power spike, but Golden Guardians getting, I think, a lot more out of this early game.
Yeah, and I want to see them keep up the vision in this effective way, because vision is obviously really important to winning the game, but when you have someone like Pridestalker on these type of picks, not just the Nocturne, but a lot of these assassin junglers that he likes to bring, you want to set up that element of surprise as much as possible, which can get more difficult to execute as the map gets cracked open more and more. So see if they can keep it up.
Just got to keep that pressure on if you're on the Cloud9 side. The Golden Guardians are happy just farming, and every time Nocturne's ultimate is up, look for a play, because they're kind of in their comfort zone, trying to keep this tower alive. I'm not sure that Summit got local gold from that. I don't actually know. I didn't see the gold pop up over his head, but he's going to look for a bit of a chase down here onto Licorice.
Going for it. Nice slap, but Licorice is making sure to keep back as much as possible, still has some of these minions to stand behind, and it's been pushed in enough. And I think that is the big thing with Golden Guardians, and making sure they still have this patience and not overextend. What had punished Cloud9 in that previous play of going a little too ham, Golden Guardians don't want to make the same misstep.
So, pretty dominant early laning from Summit, you know, as to be expected in this matchup and from this player, but post 6, he has been punished multiple times now. And the question is, does Cloud9 feel comfortable to fight for this next Dragon? TP is available for Licorice, and he could move down for this. But Pridestalker has the ulti available again. So if someone overextends here, there is the opportunity to look for a play. We'll see if it's going to be towards Summit again, who is pushing up on that top side, who is a very, very squishy build. No defensive stats purchased up whatsoever. And is going to be pretty susceptible to these types of plays. With Nocturne up on top side, Summit going to be playing it safe and just will take an early base.
Licorice already hovering around mid. We're at that point where the supports are just unlocked, mostly hovering around that central focus of the map, so they can either respond to something like a paranoia or just be able to join the rest of the fight. But in the end, a little bit of lackluster action right now. As soon as the Rift Herald spawns, though, the rotation over from Golden Guardians, they step up into it. Some intel drawn over towards Cloud9. They did get the scuttle prior. They know this is here. There's wards down from Golden Guardians in this rush, though, so they know Cloud9 is coming, but they're not backing off of it just yet. Summit and Fudge from the opposite entrance. Paranoia comes down. Teleport here from Golden Guardians as well as Licorice makes his way through. The Bulletine on the side gets responded to by the exhaust once more. Blaber goes in, kicks back Licorice. Licorice is down. Olleh down too. The Chaos Storm continues to follow upon Ablazeolive, who flashes away from the Death Ray. But Blaber, even though he connects the kick, he cannot go just yet. Does he want to? Final slap, a triple kill.
much popping off in that fight. Cloud9 roast Golden Guardians at the Herald fight. They get the Herald as well. No, excuse me, Pridestalker did secure that, but 4 kills onto your Viktor here. Moving over towards the Dragon, they're gonna be able to grab that as well. That is a massive fight for Cloud9. Berserker getting so much damage down with his ultimate in that one, and all of the AoE from Cloud9, GP ulti, Viktor ulti, MF ulti, got so much work done. Golden Guardians wanted to fight for this. Ornn is not with them at the start. You can see very early ultimate forced out there from Lost by Isle's ultimate on the Leona. The Ornn ulti comes through. Berserker got a lot of damage down early on, then had to flash out of Olleh's ult. And Licorice just not tanky enough at this point in the game. And the flash forward from Fudge, his initial tick of the ult hit all 3, and then the Death Lasers following through, chasing down, speed up from the Q to get in range here, lands the Q, the laser through both of them, makes it a quadra for Fudge. And he just picks up a full item going back to base there, buys an entire Zhonya's, already has the Leandries, knowing he's gonna be who they depend upon for a lot of this frontline damage. You can see how much work the Soul Laners got done from Cloud9, Summit, as well as Fudge, doing about 5,000 damage combined in that fight.
So fresh there in those moments, and on the opposite end, Pridestalker, for instance, not able to have an impact in that fight, and Golden Guardians, with their focus on the objective, were not as present in the damage that was to come through from Cloud9 afterwards. But Cloud9, they managed to get their second Dragon now. A bit quick pickup on all fronts, so they can start stacking that once again. Solar Flare comes down, gets a lockdown onto Olleh. Come down with the Make It Rain as well. Berserker takes it onto the Braum for Olleh to be yeeted on out of this one. It's a pick-off for Cloud9, and the reward they get is Summit on that bot side, taking down a turret, making it all 3 outers down in favor of Cloud9.
Yeah, Golden Guardians losing on the other side of the map, away from the GP. It's rough because if you have GP just assisting with the ultimate, you get the kill there. He gets free time on that bottom tier 1, takes that down as well. Looking like it's going to be Shield Bow second for him, so going full on crit, expecting IE third. If that is the case, Summit, a lot of gold in his pocket from taking down these towers, from farming up the parlay gold. Things looking really, really good here for Cloud9 already. Off the back of these last couple fights, they've created a 4.5k lead. They can get themselves to Soul Point here in about 3 minutes, assuming Golden Guardians can't really kind of staunch the bleeding. At the very least, for Golden Guardians, a lot of these tiers are going to be finished stacking up prior to the next Dragon, so they will have some pretty big spikes coming through. We'll see if Ablazeolive can farm up enough gold to really get a second item, but he's very far behind the curve of where Fudge is. Already has that Blighting Jewel plus 2 fully completed items. Golden Guardians will drop their Herald mid and try to look for a crash here, but of course no plates to be had, and potentially could even stop this, but we'll at least get a charge off.
Most of them hanging out and around to make sure that it could charge through, see if Cloud9 were going to try and aggress onto it all. And Golden Guardians still waiting for the Ornn items to come through. That safe back positioning that they had before is much more difficult to execute upon when you have those outer turrets down. So having to turtle up even that much more, and a more difficult time getting that vision extended out. So Cloud9 taking this window to farm up for themselves.
Yep, Forge Fire Crest through for Licorice, so he hits 13. That's the first Ornn item through. If he can hit 14 prior to that Dragon fight, he's got about half of a level to go, so probably will hit 14 prior to that, be able to give an upgrade over to his Corki or his Xayah. If Corki actually has the mythic completed, of course. If not, gonna have to give that upgrade to Xayah. And then the gold lead starts to lie to you a little bit because of the added stats that the Ornn is going to bring. We do know someone's hovering the Ornn here. Will they go for this play? But they don't know that someone's hovering Summit as well.
Summit knocked
Lee Sin's
up.
here.
Lee Sin's here, but so is Nocturne. The exhaust comes through. Another knockout from the Ornn Horn. Blaber thrown on away. Pridestalker still in space. And as soon as that comes through, so does the Solar Flare, because the rest of Cloud9 is here for the party. They take down 2. And over up top, Fudge just taking it on with Ablazeolive. Kills all in Cloud9's favor.
Oh, the solo kill on top side for Fudge, taking down Ablazeolive, and that time Blaber had the perfect read. He's ghosting Summit, just standing behind him there, tracking where that next play was going to be. They anticipate the Nocturne ulti. They get the kills there. The entire top side is dead. And now Cloud9 onto the Baron here, TPing in for this. There's not much of an opportunity to really contest. Lost can try to look for some sort of a miracle steal with the Feather Pull, but it's very, very unlikely to happen, and Nocturne's not going to arrive here in time.
When they got eyes on you the whole time, a laser is easy to slice right through your heart like a dagger, and Cloud9 Baron on lock. That buff is gonna do them great while they push with this Red Bull Baron buff.
Yeah, they get the Baron, they get the kills. This is that replay of the solo kill up on top side. So Ablazeolive pushing up here, but Fudge is very confident. Ablaze, using those spells early, nice sidestep on that last rocket, but closes the gap, no flash on him. And Fudge is able to stay on top of him, keep the laser on him. It's gonna be Dragon as well going their way. So you can see Pridestalker up on the top side of the map. He is just continuing to farm. They know they can't contest right now with the additional Baron power plus the massive lead. Cloud9, though, 8K in the advantage, are cruising in this one. The early game looking pretty good for Golden Guardians, but last 10 minutes or so have been very, very Cloud9 favored. There's no defense being mounted for this tower, so this one is gone. Tier 2 mid looks like it may be just given up as well. They're going to give up at least 2 of these outers very, very quickly, and they're so valuable. So you're losing a lot of gold here over to Cloud9, just trying to get as much farm as you can on your jungler.
Splitting across these lanes, and even when looking over towards the towers on Cloud9's side, the top and mid are chunked down low by Golden Guardians, but they can't actually close the distance to finish those off and start giving them more of an area to play around.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of just hoping you win a team fight, you pick up some bounties from the kills, you pick up some bounties from the turrets, and you can maybe start to swing the game that way, but it's fully Cloud9 in the driver's seat here, now moving up towards top side, get that wave pushing in, look to collect the last of the tier 2 outers, and just extend this gold advantage. They don't have to win the game on this Baron push. Just make the gold lead balloon, get ready for that soul fight here in 4 minutes. And if Cloud9 can find any sort of opportunity, you can win a team fight, potentially even knock down some inhibs.
Lots of ultimates available on both sides here as well. Summit, no teleport, but does have his Cannon Barrage, so.
Fudge getting chunked out a little bit, it is a bit of a big deal, not going to be able to sustain up too easily. They're actually going to give him the red buff. To be able to regen up. So I actually like this. They want to continue the push. They're dropping the ultis to just zone them off, but in goes Nocturne.
The answer's to Paranoia right there in the back. Take out Berserker, a big chunk of their damage. Exhaust used onto Fudge, who went to stasis, so as soon as he arrives, he ends up using his flash to get away. But here's the resurrection coming through for Pridestalker. Can he make an impact? In the meantime, he's lost in this. His death is imminent. Golden Guardians lose only 1. It's the 1-for-1 trade right now, but they offset this push.
It's 1-for-1. They do get a big shutdown, so gold-wise, pretty good for them, but Cloud9 going to be able to continue the push and get more. They look in.
Get right on over. Teleport through. Olleh burned on down. Lost tries to get in here with the blade collar for some damage, but look at that heavy chunk that he cannot avoid. Summit nice and strong and healthy to put his body between the rest.
Yeah, Summit goes in the parlay, almost one taps lost there. Has the IE completed now, so Summit is monstrously strong, and Cloud9 gets so much more on the back end of that fight. It was a nice shutdown on a Berserker, but it's the GA spent to be able to do that. And Golden Guardians don't really have any tools now to actually try to fight at this soul point here. Summit picks up a stopwatch. Berserker picks up a stopwatch. There's already a Zhonya's on your mid laner. Blaber's closing in on his GA. He's probably going to have that completed before that next fight. So Cloud9 are picking up all the luxury items that they could ever need to be ready for this fight. And now Pridestalker are going to have to use the Blast Cone to retreat, but Lost is very far out here. He's in trouble.
Oh, and he knows it too. Olleh is wondering if he can help out, but in the end, Lost using the ultimate just for a little bit of a defensive ability, but the Paranoia comes through again. The Ornn Horn doesn't get the knockup just yet until now, but all the while, Pridestalker's marked down. Blaber has been marked down right on the flank. Berserker, though, has to get out of this. Lows down to decent amount of damage, and Fudge takes down the tank on the opposite side. 2 down for Golden Guardians, 2 down for Cloud9 here. Do they continue to follow up? They'll back off at that.
Yeah, they're going to at least push in mid here, get some damage down, because again, they have the health advantage. So even though it's a trade in kills, the Golden Guardians using their teamfight comp pretty effectively here. They are coming online, but they're just losing too much off the back end of these fights as another laser claims a kill. Cloud9 gonna get 2 towers here and an inhib.
How many times have we seen that laser just slice through at the distance? It feels like Xayah cannot get safe. Lost continually targeted here in these instances. As soon as Golden Guardians lose 1 or 2, the left end up leaving vulnerable.
Yeah, it's really difficult. You have to be careful about the backline access that Viktor does have with that laser. Is so far Fudge now just taking away these camps, getting up to enough gold here. He's trying to get his death cap. He needs about 300 gold for death cap. Not sure that he's actually going to get there prior to this next fight. You know, Cloud9 trying to get as many power spikes in as possible for this dragon fight. That is what they're prepping for. Blaber completes the GA. The stopwatches I mentioned earlier are still in. And with Futures Market, Fudge actually does have enough gold, so he completes the Rabadon's death cap. They've got everything going for themselves. You know, 2 stopwatches ready, the Zonias is ready. They've got it all here. And you look over on the other side, they're just gonna try to engage immediately.
Yeah, Pridestalker's the one that tries to go for the play, but the Solar Flares drop down immediately. Zenith Blade to get the stun over here onto Olleh, so he tries to walk it out. A good knock up onto Berserker, smashed on down, lost to be burned down soon as well. Golden Guardians lose the 3 for 2, but the flash forward from Summit, they want to get this last hit onto Licorice. Death Ray, a little bit of a sting.
They're gonna try to
Summit
end.
that takes the last ping. The teleport going over here towards this base. Fudge is here, Summit's here. Blaber is coming through the mid lane, and that's an inhibitor marked down. Pridestalker is up, but you have a full 20 seconds before any teammates arise. So instead, that's one inbound, or Nexus turret rather, a second Nexus turret to be taken by Cloud9, sending Golden Guardians quivering in their boots here in game number 1 to take it and start off the series.
28-minute win here from Cloud9, 13K advantage, looking dominant in this one. Fudge was a monster on the Viktor, 7-0 and 9. The early laning from Summit really strong as well. Golden Guardians showing some kind of glimpses of brilliance, showing you know, that they had a pretty strong plan coming into this. Were able to find a couple early kills on a Summit that was really good, but Summit continued to pile on the pressure, you know, knock down that top lane tower pretty much solo, being able to create a good CS advantage as well. So even though he was picked off a couple times, Cloud9, it felt like was kind of in the driver's seat for quite a bit of time, but the wheels really did fall off for Golden Guardians at that Herald fight. You know, when they got crushed at the Herald, when they lose the Dragon off of that, because off of the couple early kills on Summit, they take the second Dragon, it felt like, hey, maybe they can play this game a little bit slow and get to the point where their carries are really ready to go, but the pace of the game picked up really fast, and Cloud9 was punishing them. And even though Golden Guardians had great dive on a Berserker and were able to kill him off multiple times, Fudge was so strong and was just crushing through these fights while he's being ignored.
It's what we were looking for from Cloud9. Show where that strength can come from, and in this case, the Fudge factor was in full effect. Cloud9 do begin their lower bracket journey with a bang, but taking down GG in a dominant game 1. And while they ready up for game number 2, we're heading on over to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much. Cloud9 jumps out to a 1-0 lead. Normally, when you make predictions, no refunds. Today, refunds.
Let's go.
Let's do it. All right. Not my handwriting. This is Emily's handwriting. It's way better.
It's very clear.
Yeah, I can just do perfect cursive on a telestrator. These were your predictions. Basically, I'm allowing anyone to change their predictions based on what we saw that game. Team fight comp from Golden Guardians. Kind of a weird Nocturne in there. We'll get to the draft, but we're going to do these predictions first.
All right.
Raz, you're first.
I'm getting in there. I will make a change.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to do it for me?
What's the change?
From C931 to C930.
You're not going Golden Guardians? Okay, 3-0. So you're like, that's
you can
repeatable.
make a case. You can make a case of them being more pissed at their own play. So now no, that's not happening. So yeah, C930.
Okay. For me.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
I'm ready.
I can be a pretty stubborn fella.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. This did look a lot like the same losses that I've seen from them in the past. If you remember their first regular season game, that like dragon fight where there's like the jungle Gwen just like snips them all up.
Yep.
It can't keep happening like that. There were so many. This one's good.
Oh my goodness,
wow.
he's sticking to it.
You know
I don't need a refund. They're gonna win 3 of the next 4. All right, Mark, what are you doing?
Well, let me crunch some numbers really quick.
He's crunching them. He's crunching them.
Yeah, they're still screwed. It's 3-0 with Raz.
Just one more.
Okay.
You want to get some data in there real quick? That's how data works.
Okay, I'm cracking the numbers.
Emily,
it's
we have a couple of people who want the short day.
Yeah. I'm also going to change mine. But I'm going to be super boring and say 3-1.
Okay.
Wait, you're going from 3-2 to 3-1.
Yeah.
I'm doing
I like
the
it. I like
most
it.
boring
This is
thing
probably
ever.
This is probably pretty likely to be correct. So these are the new predictions. This looks worse for me.
Beautiful.
I think this looks worse for me. But that's it. Okay. We're going to talk about the game though, because the drafts were interesting in the fact that it looked like we had all these discussions at the start of the day about whether or not Golden Guardians was going to do like Licorice versus Summit head-to-head. But to me, this kind of looked like they were just trying to do what 100 Thieves did. Emily, what were your thoughts on this draft?
Yeah, so the Ornn kind of points to that, where like, we were wondering like, okay, what is Licorice going to lock in? The other thing, I'll leave someone else to talk about the Nocturne, because I'm sure we all have opinions on that. But the other thing I noticed about this that I want to point out for C9 side is that they went for a pushing bot lane. So I don't know if this is because of Isles or just something they kind of revamped, but I've already talked about how much I like MF. They had the push in that lane, which I really liked, because that's something I feel like C9's bot lane has lacked. Their forward percentage has not been great throughout the entirety of the split. And so I'm not necessarily crediting that to Isles specifically and his presence, but I did like that look from C9.
Yeah, I think Cloud9, in every counter pick that they had this draft, just trounced Golden Guardians. In like mostly in 4-5, I thought Viktor and GP, the moment they saw Braum, like the short range on Nocturne and Xayah, it's just impossible for those three picks to really play the game, while also GP having a great matchup in play on side lane versus the Ornn. And the Corki was good. I thought the Corki was great, and it was basically the last-ditch effort that Golden Guardians had. If the Corki was fed, then yes, they can play the rest of the game out. But this fight certainly didn't help.
And this was the one where, right here, I think Golden Guardians has won. They get the GP ult, they push Blaber out. If they just don't give C9 a target, if Olleh doesn't Valkyrie in, I think they can actually just take this dragon and then go back to farming.
Yeah, they've already shoved them off. By Valkying in, Ablazeolive presents himself as someone they can target down. And from here, after that, I mean, let's be honest, Fudge just absolutely ran over this game. Fudge was incredible. Yeah. He got a quadra kill, I believe, in this team fight right here. And this is the concern that I had for C9 and Golden Guardians this matchup, was even if Golden Guardians wants to say, we can play you late game, C9. You really can't. Fudge is actually a fine late game team fighter. If you know Berserker gets there, he's insane. The team fighting of Cloud9 has always been good. The problem is when they don't do enough in the early game. And so I think the way that Golden Guardians chose to attack them here is actually backwards. Like, I don't think you're gonna outscale team fight C9.
That is what 100 Thieves did, though.
You're not 100 Thieves!
Yeah, and also, to talk about drafts, C9 had a lot more scaling this game, too.
Yeah, because they adapted, because C9 have brains.
Well, you're also not hard attacking topside, right? Like, 100 Thieves' priority against C9 was make sure that that top lane matchup is just absolutely destroyed, in addition to the pick. So, chat, you talked about how, like, oh, they're kind of following the blueprint, right? They kind of did, but the missing part was that you just constantly attack that top side so that he doesn't even have time to get scaling.
Yeah, and C9 also played well on side lanes here. While we're talking about Fudge, being able to get the solo kill on Blaze on the top lane, I think also Blaber hovering over GP bot lane so they can make the turn on the Nocturne ulti dive gank that they ended up having there. So they just read what Golden Guardians needed to do to get back into this game and did not allow it. So really clean game from Cloud9.
And one of the things we were talking about in these team fights that you'll see in the damage Delta champions is that, yes, Berserker is still a great team fighter, but it's the Viktor and the GP that are both the scaling damage carries. So you saw, even in some of those later fights in that highlight reel, Berserker gets killed. Well, guess what? You still have the GP damage. You still have Viktor on top of you, and it was just over.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons Berserker's damage was so low is because that was Nocturne's thing that he wanted to
He kept
kill.
going on MF.
He just kept going on shit. And that's where the symmetry of the team comp didn't really work for me, was that Nocturne is a dive champion, but Braum, Ornn are front-to-back champions.
Yeah.
We've already talked about it roughly, but if you're going to play front-to-back, having one diver forces the front-to-back guy to dive, and then all they had to do was spread out wide, the MF dies, then the Viktor and the GP.
You better protect that.
Destroy. Better protect this thing. This is a good...
At all costs.
All right, Golden Guardians.
But they red side, so they want to do the same...
Salty run back!
I hope
I don't think so.
No, better not be.
It's interesting because C9 has done blue side most of the year. We talked about this a lot in the 100 Thieves series, and then it was kind of just the series where they went same way the whole time. Any quick thoughts on what adjustments should be made by Golden Guardians, Emily?
I mean, I would be curious to see if they just, again, like we talked about the first time they met, give Licorice a counter pick, focus topside, and see what happens. I'd like to see Golden Guardians try it.
I don't think Golden Guardians necessarily expected the MF pick to come out, and Xayah had been such a safe pick globally But this one, they did not allow her to play the game. I think if there's going to be a change-up, it's going to be an AD carry priority. We'll probably see more of Philios, Jinxes, maybe even a Caitlyn if the Golden Guardians have the opportunity.
I think they're going to give Licorice counterpick.
There it is.
No more Ornn.
Yeah.
Let's go.
They're going to ban Nar Jace the same way they did, but instead of picking top on 4, they'll pick mid on 4, and then they'll go top on 5. I don't think that's what I think they should be doing with Fudge. Fudge isn't going to take advantage of counterpick, hasn't all year. They didn't get much out of the Corki, but we will see. During the 2022 Spring Split, use your MasterCard to make a purchase from the in-client store and save your card on file to be entered for a chance to win a trip to a League of Legends event or a set of 9 Player of the Week statues and a MasterCard prepaid card. That entry period goes from March 26th to April 23rd. That's it for this segment. We return. You can see Golden Guardians, if they can adapt, and answer back in Game 2 after the break.
I want the tactical statue, the dab.
You get 9,
Yeah.
so you probably get them all.
Okay.
Oh, it's the Renekton hover. We don't know if it's gonna get locked.
Whenever there's fans here, I can never
Look at
have
his
faith in
face.
any hover.
Look at Fudge's face. He knows what he's doing.
Blaber goes in, kicks back Licorice. Licorice is down. Olleh down 2. The Chaos Storm continues to follow upon Ablazeolive, who flashes away from the Death Ray. But Blaber, even though he connects the kick,
He can take it.
cannot go just yet. Does he want to? Oh! Slap a triple kill from Fudge. Lee Sin's here, but so is Nocturne. The exhaust comes through. Another knockout from the Ornn horn. Blaber thrown on away. Pridestalker still in space. And as soon as that comes through, so does the solar flare because the rest of Cloud9 is here for the party. They take
Topside
down 2. And over up top, Fudge just taking it hard with Ablazeolive.
This is the sort of pride that gets you in those big moments, allows you to take down giants.
What's going on?
Jake from State Farm, the perp just confessed. I think. I don't know.
What?
Oh, can't afford streaming anymore, so here we are.
Oh, don't give up what you love. State Farm has options to personalize your policy so you get a rate that fits your budget.
Oh, that's great. The subtitles would be nice.
For surprisingly great rates that fit any budget, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or click to get a quote today.
Verizon is going ultra with 5G ultra wideband in many more cities so you can do more. Mindy, with up to 10 times faster speeds, she can download a movie in minutes or a song in seconds.
Yep.
Okay, now let's work off-site. Public Wi-Fi? No thanks. 5G ultra wideband is faster and safer and so powerful that it's not just for phones. Hello 5G home and business internet. It's time to go ultra with Verizon, America's most reliable 5G network, so you can do more.
強く輝いて消えた長い